Where are the elms? Oh, they've gone. My door? Not there. Bricked. One door. Ah, but I'm happy to be at this museum. I best peek in and see what this invitation is. Imagine I, Orra White Hitchcock, received a beautiful invitation, and it came from Memorial Hall, Old Deerfield, straight to the corridors of heaven. Heaven, yes, Edward wrote that about my voice in a love poem in 1821, just a few months before we were married. Imagine, he said, my voice, the music of the heavens. I dare say he exaggerates. I see now why we, and I especially, was invited. There is such a beautifully, artfully displayed exhibit in this museum now, which was once Deerfield Academy, where I taught. I taught for 5 years here. Yes, this is Memorial Hall now, but as I knew it in 1813 to 1818, the 5 years teaching the females in the arts, the decorative arts, astronomy, mathematics, the botanics, the sciences. Oh, those females were ardent scholars indeed. That is how it looked to me with those beautiful elms, the stand of elms. It's so heartwarming to be in this familiar classroom, now museum, the long-standing, well-served desk. And look at this, the Hitchcocks. Edward Hitchcock was one of the most accomplished scientific researchers of the 19th century. His work was praised by none other than Charles Darwin, and indeed, he kept a correspondence with him. Orra White was a renowned artist and scientific illustrator who continues to receive critical acclaim to this day. Oh, I am quite humbled by that. Together, Edward and Orra formed a partnership unrivaled in productivity, discovery, and indeed passion, not only of one another, but of the natural world. And it all began in this room, because this is where Edward and I met. Oh, the beloved herbarium. Plants that Edward and I botanized and collected, and I drew and painted by watercolor. Meeting in the corridors of heaven, Elizabeth Farnsworth, who was quite a pteridologist. She was so appreciative of my artistic endeavor and aesthetic view to plants, as well as to the scientific accuracy. It gave her great inspiration. She said, I went below the surface. I looked not just for what the plant was doing above, but into the roots and drawing. And for this, she was greatly inspired. Oh, such friends, these plants. Oh, and the torquetum that Edward had in his classroom teaching astronomy. He made that, and that is an astronomical device which indeed charts eclipses. I, at age 14, was doing that mathematically in my journal. He and I both shared a love of astronomy, and indeed that is why he is not here today with me. He's got a front row seat to the comet Erasmus. It's only once every 2,000 years that does appear across the heavens. And he said, Orra, I will join you if I can, but until now I need to be watching. And I bid him adieu, and I understood. Dear Edward. And I stand gazing at my dress that indeed I wore here. And it is in such good shape. I see it was donated by Mary, my daughter. I would love to see the silk dress that I purchased in Paris. I wonder where that silk Parisian dress has landed. There is a drawing also at age 14 that I did in memorial to my brothers and sisters. I don't know how my mother fared. She lost so many. It was only I and my 2 brothers who survived, and the 3 of us were tutored at home. My parents believed strongly in education, that I took to learning quite avidly, and I loved it. And I now think maybe I was in a bit of a competition with my 2 brothers, but no matter. I learned, I love to learn, and I shared that as a teacher. Oh, there's another botanical representation of the mushrooms. And that was the first year Edward and I were married in 1821, and we moved to Conway. But mind you, we collected so many specimens. I did not draw absolutely all of them, but I tried as best as I could. And we had that happiest of times botanizing in the hills. Meanwhile, those were the 4 years that Edward was a pastor. He thought that was his calling, but his true calling was his passion for nature. Up above, I see there are 3 large charts of mine. We have the tracks, of which he collected and amassed over 10,000 tracks. He went to his dying grave thinking those tracks were made by large prehistoric birds. But since then, I know science has proven about the study of the dinosaurs. I will bring that information back to Edward if he doesn't come down to visit. And there's a wonderful picture of Edward being welcomed home. And whether he was gone a fortnight or a day or 2, all the children would come and welcome and greet him at the doorway, and later would be in song around the piano. Edward purchased it secondhand, thrifty man that he was. Edward, oh, and the children gathered round. There was Mary, there was Catherine, and Jane, and Emily, and Charles, and Edward Jr. Now, mind you, we had those 4 girls and 2 boys, but the firstborn in Conway only lived 2 years. And that was sad. That firstborn was named Edward Jr. And then the other loss of a child died the same day it was given birth. So many remembrances in this room, in this display, not only of my time teaching, but also of living a life of 42 years with dear Edward. I'm reminded how he wrote to his colleagues and referred to me as a Mrs. Colleague. That was one of the highest compliments I could receive from him. He knew my worth in supporting his endeavors as scientist and geologist. He appreciated my art, and here we have more samples. We have a contemporary painting, which is quite talented in its own way, of Edward and I surveying the land Massachusetts. We had many a trip out and about doing that. We would pack a picnic. They were happy times indeed. Oh, October 1850, after visiting England, Ireland, Wales, Scotland, France, Belgium, and Switzerland, the Hitchcocks return home and are welcomed by Amherst College students and faculty. Yes, that trip was so memorable, so many memories there. That was 5.5 months, unparalleled. In England, the streets of London I did not like to walk upon. It was just so crowded. I couldn't wait to be home on the streets of Amherst. But aside from that, there was a museum that was restricted. Only men could come to this museum. But because I and others were scientists, we were allowed. There was a special occasion, and within it there were all manner of samples of skeletons, of body parts, of items that would sort of make a normal person go, oh, I don't know if I can handle seeing this. But because I and the other women were scientists, we understood that this collection was for the study of science. It was with great interest that I visited John Calvin's homestead in Geneva, Switzerland, when I was there. Thank you to that long trip. But it was not without Edward being sick on the boat. It was a travesty, but he somehow survived it all. My injury was later on when I fell from all places from my porch, and I injured myself in such a way that I never fully recovered. Those were taken just 3 years for me before I died in 1863, and Edward came shortly thereafter me, almost a year. But I look at those pictures and I know we lived quite a full and rich life. And we had our principles, we had our beliefs, clearly against slavery. And we also believed in the temperance movement, and we strongly felt about the need for peace on this earth, not war. Not only that, we believe strongly in women's rights. It has been memorable, so memorable, to see aspects of my life with Edward represented on this wall and on this display, this room where I once taught when it was Deerfield Academy. This is so heartwarming and inspiring. I am thankful that my life can be a bit of an inspiration to others. Oh, and the blackboard. Many a lesson were written here. Yes, indeed. If there were chalk, I would write a great big thank you to the curators of this museum. It was an invitation well received and appreciated. Poor Edward, he never made it, but that's all right. I'll tell him all about it. You too may come and visit, but without the need for an invitation. And any time during the summer and fall seasons. I must go look for our piano. I hear it's in the music room, and there are many more rooms to investigate. I bid adieu.